Chapter 32, Showtime. A joke? Cass murmured. It was all a joke? Yoji and Maximus were crouched over their friend, just as they had been crouched over their enemy only a few moments earlier. They breathed a matching sigh of relief. She was going to be fine. What's a joke? Said Maximus. What? Oh, nothing, said Cass, forcing herself awake. I guess I was dreaming. Are we still on the stage? Yep, you were only out for a few seconds, said Yoji, helping her to her feet. No longer worried about Cass, Maximus glanced around the stage. The Skeleton Sisters were gone, and were all Midnight Sun members. As far as he could tell, the gold-painted dancers stared at them, picking at the gems glued inside their belly buttons. Not sure what to do, audience members spoke to one another in nervous whispers, uncertain whether the spectacle had been planned or not. Even the guards on the aisles seemed confused. But it would only be a matter of seconds before the guards and everyone else wised up. The friends needed time to get away, thought Maximus, but what to do? Maximus heard a clicking sound and looked down. One of Cass's 2 remaining gold coins. It must have fallen out of her pocket. He picked it up off the floor. Suddenly he had inspiration. This was a magic show, wasn't it? And what did people say? The show must go on? You guys get out of here, he whispered to Cass and Yoji. I'll distract everyone. Meet you outside in a minute. Shakingly, Maximus got to his feet and found himself alone in the middle of the biggest stage he'd ever seen, let alone step foot on. Hi, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, the real Lord Pharaoh, Maximus shouted, trying to match Lord Pharaoh's old world accent. The effect was not entirely authentic. He sounded like a small child speaking into the Darth Vader-style voice-changing microphone. He stepped out in front of the stage. From his vantage point, the room looked huge and dark. He hadn't realized quite how many people there were, and they were all watching him. Think of me as the little man standing behind Lord Pharaoh's curtain, as you know, like in The Wizard of Oz. If he was expecting a warm reception, he didn't get it. The audience cheered. Yeah, right. Very funny, kid. Sit down. Somebody call his parents, please. Don't believe me? I'll prove it to you. He held the gold coin above his head. Maximus' image appeared on the big screen behind him. The cameraman, wherever he was, had decided to play along. I am Lord Pharaoh, the greatest alchemist of all time. Maximus tried to keep his voice steady. I have in my hand a gold coin. Watch, and I shall make it disappear. This should be easy, Maximus thought. He was going to do a simple sleight of hand trick that all magicians know, one that Pietro had shown him numerous times. But his hands were shaking with nervousness, and he had tried to slip the coin between his fingers. It dropped onto the stage. The audience predictably, mercilessly. Boo, go home. You said you'd make it disappear, not drop it. He picked up the coin and felt about as low as possibly could. Where was the applause track when he really needed it? At the very second, he wanted to jump off the stage and run from the theater, but he told himself he had to stay where he was. He stole a look at the gold dancers, restless at his side of the stage. More likely, Cass and Yoji wouldn't have been able to make it all the way out of the hotel yet. He had to buy them just a little more time. When he stood up, he did his best to smile like a boy who knew exactly what he was doing. Of course you didn't make it disappear, he said gamely. Would you want to make a gold coin disappear? No, you'd want to keep it. There was a few laughs and jeers. Mostly jeers. But one person shouted, Oh, give the kid a chance. He's kind of funny. That gave Maximus an idea. He couldn't do magic. He would try and make the audience laugh. Or at him, or with him. Either would have to do. Okay, I know I'm not the only magician around here. So who knows this one? How many magicians does it take to change a light bulb? He waited long enough for the question to sink in before answering it. Well, that depends on what you want the light bulb to change into. I'll admit there were more laughs than a few groans, but I'd also submit that there was a few laughs. So it wasn't the greatest joke in the world, or the newest. What light bulb joke is? For Maximus at the time, this represented progress. He didn't even have to try and explain the joke after he told it. Then Maximus had a little moment of comic inspiration. He made up a joke on the spot, as opposite to merely repeating ones he'd read. But the real question is, how many light bulbs does it take to change a magician? He said. After a beat, he answered, I'm not sure exactly, but tonight a light bulb went off in my head, and I realized I'm not much of a magician anyways. So I changed into a comedian. This time he got a real laugh, and he learned an important lesson. When in doubt, make fun of yourself. Self-deprecating humor is the surest kind. As just now another light bulb went off in my head, he paused. I bet you thought I was gonna say I'm not a comedian either, huh? But actually, all I meant is that it's time for me to go. It had been about 3 minutes, enough time he'd hoped for Cassie and Yoshi to get out of the hotel. My singer smiled and bowed, and now if you'll excuse me. When the audience watched in confusion, he leapt off the stage and ran up the aisle, exited the theater. Which really was the most legitimate sort of disappearing trick, don't you agree?